Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Monday, July 31st, 2023. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. The Department of Veteran Affairs announces a groundbreaking initiative to address health access disparities among black veterans. We'll be talking with the VA's press secretary to discuss the PACT Act. A black family in Texas faced terror at the hands of police officers who mistakenly accused them of driving a stolen vehicle. We'll show you the chilling video highlighting the racial disparities in law enforcement and the urgent need for accountability. The Democratic Party finds itself at a critical juncture, grappling with internal divisions over the path forward for voting rights litigation in the lead up to the 2024 presidential election. We'll speak with the founding partner of Hit Strategies to unpack also how the Democrats must focus on black voters and how they must change their language and strategies in doing so. Also, I talked with Teresa Runstantler, a professor and historian of race and sports at American University, about her new book, Blackball, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Spencer Haywood, and the generation that saved the soul of the NBA. Also, folks, we will share with you what took place at the Alpha Phi Alpha convention last week, where General Brown, the brother who Biden tapped to be the chairman of Junctions of Staff, was honored by his fraternity. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, in the Department of Veteran Affairs, they have a new agency. It's called New Agency Equity Team, called IDEA, standing for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access. The IDEA Council was established last month to ensure the VA delivers on its promise to provide world-class care and benefits to all veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors, regardless of their race, age, ethnicity, gender, religion, disability, or sexual identity. Some of that includes the most significant health care and benefits expansion in the history of the VA. It's called the PACT Act, which was signed into law by President Joe Biden last year. It may benefit veterans exposed to toxic burn pits. Since the law took effect, officials said they have received more than 744,000 PACT-related claims and 103,000 enrollments. Terrence Hayes, the Department of Veteran Affairs press secretary, joins me right now to discuss this. This was not easy to pass. You had a lot of initially Republicans who were opposing it. You got people who were running out there talking about they love the military and let's fight for veterans, but they were fighting against this. And so, folks who don't know, what does it exactly do? How comprehensive is the PACT Act?
Roland, this could potentially impact more than 6 million veterans.
6 million?
More than 6 million veterans and survivors. So we're talking Vietnam War veterans, we're talking Gulf War veterans, we're talking post 9/11 veterans like myself. Those who may have come in contact with Agent Orange, burn pits, or other toxic substances because of their service. So this gives us at VA the opportunity to really get more folks enrolled into our healthcare system where they will receive better outcomes, but also there's benefits due to many of these individuals, and that's why we're doing a full court press right now to inform and educate as many veterans as possible.
So what is a burn pit? What is that?
Burn pit is anything that, you know, I was in Iraq myself, and it's where we dispose of anything you can name of. You're talking about food waste, you're talking about garbage, you're talking about feces, you're talking about jet fuel. All of those things go into this burn pit to burn it away. And unfortunately, it's on the camp that many soldiers and service members reside on.
So as a place in there are burned, and as we see that photo there, go back to the photo that you actually showed, and then those toxins obviously in the air and then going across the base.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, this is critical that we ensure that at the VA that we deliver on our promise to give care and benefits to those veterans potentially impacted by those burn pits and their survivors.
Now, you talk about this enrollment period. Is it a set number of years? Is there a cutoff date?
No, there's no cutoff date. The great thing is that you can apply for PACT Act benefits today. 10 years from now, 30 years from now. That's not going away. However, there is a sense of urgency where we're approaching the 1-year anniversary of when President Biden signed the bill into law last year. And it's important that veterans impacted and survivors please enroll in, or actually, apply for benefits on or before August 9th, because then you're potentially eligible for backdated benefits to when President Biden signed the bill last year. So that's 12 months worth of monetary benefits on top of other benefits that survivors may have as well. We're talking about education benefits, stuff like that.
Now, when you say survivors, so let's say the family member has someone, they've since passed away. Can they apply?
Exactly. Spouse, children. If you know that your loved one, your veteran, passed away because of any of those conditions, and you can find those conditions at our PACT Act website, va.gov/PACT. If anyone passed away because of any of those conditions, we are encouraging them to stop what they're doing, apply today. There's benefits due to them.
Let's go. Questions from my panel. I'm joined by Dr. Julianne Malveaux. She's the Dean, College of Ethnic Studies at California State University, LA. Dr. Amakongo Dibinga, Senior Professorial Lecturer, School of International Service at American University. Glad to have both of you here. Julianne, you first.
Sure, brother. First of all, thank you for this information. It's very important information. I think, how does this especially affect Black women? I know that we have significant numbers of Black women vets who are very often overlooked. Can you talk specifically about this PACT Act of Black women?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I was just in Boston this past week at the NAACP convention, where we signed an historic memorandum of agreement to where now the VA, for the first time, will collaborate and work alongside the NAACP to figure out better ways to ensure that we're delivering world-class care and benefits to veterans, specifically Black and brown veterans. The NAACP will help us be able to look at ways where we can bring in more Black and brown physicians, clinicians, nurses, frontline workers. We know that when you go to a doctor and that doctor typically looks like you have better outcomes. So again, that's one of the things that we are doing, and we're hoping that we can collaborate with the NAACP to do better at that, to ensure that when women veterans, specifically women veterans of color, come to VA, that they have a doctor that they can trust and that provides them the actual care that they deserve.
Amakongo.
Well, first of all, thank you, sir, for this incredible announcement and the wonderful work that you are doing. My question is about outreach. You talked about how people have until August 9th to be able to get, to have file back claims and the like. What is it that you all are doing, one, as relates to the outreach, to getting to people who already feel like, oh, the VA is not doing anything for me, and already stopped and gave up on even filing claims, so they may not get this information? And what can the rest of us do out here to help spread that information?
Great question. That's one of the things we're challenged with. And, the VA of old would have just, put the information out there and hoped and prayed that, veterans would find that information. But what we're doing now is we're going into the backyards of those veterans. We're going to where veterans are to ensure that they have that information so they can apply for these benefits. And then another thing that we're doing, we're trying to earn and many times re-earn the trust of veterans who may have been denied in the past. The beautiful thing about the PACT Act is that because of now what's called presumptive conditions, and if you have a presumptive condition, the burden of proof is no longer in the hands of the veteran. So if you have any of those conditions because of that, basically all you need to do is sign up, apply, and it's automatically assumed that that condition is because of your service. In the past, it would have been very difficult. So to any veteran out there who may have been denied multiple times, I'm encouraging you as a veteran myself, a Black veteran, to please apply today, give us another shot to get to yes.
A lot of people, really don't understand, again, if you may not have someone who's a family member, but many of our organizations really focus on our Black veterans. You speak of the NAACP, they have an annual luncheon there this year. Go to my iPad. This was the first year the Alphas had a military luncheon. General Charles Q. Brown Jr., he gave the keynote speech. He, of course, is the Chief of Staff for the Army. They had a long photo line. He couldn't get to everybody, so he said, I'm going to go down the line, do fist bumps with everybody. But that's the thing. So many of our Black organizations, they have veterans initiatives, Rainbow Push, and so many others. And unfortunately, our Black veterans are not as connected to many of the other organizations out there. So that's why reaching out to these entities is critically important.
Roland, I'll take it a step further. Several years ago, you and I may not have even had this conversation. you know. But because President Biden's determination in you know, telling us that we will be a transparent VA, that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're partnering with organizations like the NAACP. That's why we're looking into data that shows that we are having disparity issues in delivery of care and benefits to black veterans versus white veterans. We're dedicated to getting this right for our veterans and specifically to our black and brown veterans, because this is personal for me. But Secretary McDonough is totally committed to ensure that all of our veterans get the benefits and care that they have earned.
See, this is the thing that is interesting. So y'all know disparity is there. And you have folks on the other side of the aisle who fight diversity, equity, inclusion. They've been attacking the military. They've been attacking Secretary Austin and the Pentagon, saying all these things are not needed. But the reality is we know what's there in terms of that disparity. Individuals who have been fighting for this country, again, not necessarily getting the same level of respect. So people love talking about, how things are equal, but it's not equal when it comes to treatment.
Right, absolutely. And while we are getting better, we are nowhere near where we need to be, And again, we have openly acknowledged, Secretary McDonough has acknowledged on record multiple times that there has been institutional discrimination when it came to the benefits of black veterans. Again, we're dedicated, because of these new teams that you mentioned earlier, the IDEA Council, to be able to basically peel the onion back, determine why these disparities exist, and totally eliminate them.
Again, earlier you said 6 million impacted. Do we know if there's a breakout number for African Americans?
We don't know. We don't know how many, but again, we know that historically many African Americans have served in our military. So again, this is vital that anyone who knows somebody who may have been impacted by these toxic substances and served this country, please tell them so they can get the benefits that they've earned.
All right, then. Again, tell folks where they can go.
You can go to va.gov/PACT. You can also call us at 1-800-698-2411 to find out information about the PACT Act. Again, this is critical. We have an August 9th time frame, so you can maximize the amount of benefits that's due to you. So please take advantage of it.
Again, this is the website, folks, va.gov, PACT. So you go there. You see all the information. And again, you see right here, it says there's no deadline to apply for PACT Act benefits, but if you file your PACT Act claim or quickly submit your intent to file by August 9th, 2023, you may receive benefits backdated to August 10th, 2022. So don't wait to apply today. And so all information is right there on the website. Questions, all kinds of different things here. So for you to actually go to, you see it says Gulf War era and post 9/11 veteran eligibility, Vietnam era veteran eligibility, and lays out getting benefits, all information that you will need. So please go there, va.gov/PACT. Terrence, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right, folks. Got to go to a break. We'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget, download our Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also support us in what we do. You can watch us on Amazon News. We go to Amazon Fire, watch our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming channel on Amazon News platform. You can also say, Alexa, play news from Black Star Network. You can also check us out on Plex TV. Available on that platform. You can search for Black Star Network or simply go to Live TV and look under News Plus Opinion. Don't forget, you can also support us. Your resources make a big difference for us. Join our Breen and Funk fan club. Send your chicken money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, or Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. Available at bookstores nationwide, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million. You can also get your book on Amazon, download your copy on Audible. We'll be right back.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, the studies show that millennials and Gen Xers will be less well off than their parents. What can we do to make sure that we get to children younger and that they have the right money habits? Well, joining me on the next Get Wealthy is an author who's created a master playbook.
Be willing to share some of your money mistakes, right? If that's what you have to lean on, start with the money mistakes that you have made, but don't just tell the mistake, right? Tell the lesson in the mistake.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Hey, what's up? It's Tammy Roman.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you're watching. Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Folks, the Frisco, Texas Police Department, they've released body camera footage of a black family being racially profiled and terrorized after an officer mistakenly accused them of driving a stolen vehicle. This video has been circulating on social media, folks, and it shows you what black folks have to contend with. And what's crazy about this story is that it all started because the officer typed in the wrong letter of the license plate. Watch this.
Whatever is in your hand, put it on the roof. That's fine. Open up the car from the outside. Yes.
If we can get the tow shut down, people that exit.
Hey, move your car back. Move your car back, bro. I don't want them to hit me and then slam into me. Open up your car door and step out of the car. Unlock your car. Unlock your car. Exit the vehicle. Face away from us. Face away from us. Face away. Turn around. Turn around. It's okay. Turn around. Do not face us. Everybody in the car, hands outside the window. Hands outside. Maintain your hands outside.
Hey, listen, sir. This is my wife's car. We just in a basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Man, my son. That's my son. I don't know.
Don't worry about it.
Listen, bro. We just here for a basketball tournament, bro.
We just learned right now. That's why we stopped.
Oh, man, don't do this to my son, bro. Please, I'm coming out, bro.
Come on out.
I don't know.
Come on out, please. Can you fit that way or no?
I can't fit that way, bro. Come on, man. I'm a basketball coach, bro.
It's okay.
Look at this, bro. Listen, bro. We are legit. I'm a basketball coach. I got concealed carry and everything, bro.
That's why we told you.
Y'all put a gun on my son for no reason,
Can I explain to you? We ran a tag. The tag came out stolen, but it was the wrong state.
Come on, man. Y'all has all guns on this, dog. Come on,
that's
man.
standard protocol for
that dude, bro, my brother just got killed not too long ago, bro.
We didn't.
That's bad. That's a terrible experience, dog. I mean, I understand y'all got to do y'all job, man, but we all legit, bro.
Yeah, I know.
We all legit, bro.
Where's the keys at?
This is my wife's stuff right here. Myron Heard. Heard.
I'm also Queens. I stopped you initially, okay? So that's your wife, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So over by the, let's step over here.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, you're good, man. You're good.
You're good.
All right. So it looks like I made a mistake. So I ran it AZ for Arizona instead of AR. And that's what happened.
Hey, you can open up the doorway.
I made a mistake.
We're in the crib. You're out of here. Just let you know. It could have went all wrong for us, though.
What do you mean by that?
I'm just saying, though, one day, because like I say, I dropped my phone here. They yelled out, don't move or we'll shoot. And I dropped my phone. If I would have went to reach for my phone, we could have all.
That's why we get clear instructions. No, that's why we're giving you instructions. But we're not.
There's so much shit going on, man. This hey, man,
No doubt. No, we're so sorry that it happened like this. We had no intent on doing this, you know? We're humans as well, and we make mistakes.
Right.
I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying, like, it wasn't a computer that read it. It was our human error that did this. And so please forgive us,
I
man.
made a mistake. I made a mistake. No, it's not funny. And I'm gonna, whatever happens to me, I'll deal with that.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, brother. Okay?
If you open up the doorway, you're late for now.
Look, man, I'm gonna be honest, man. Being on the scene, knowing that children were involved, that's why we were moving so slow. We were apprehensive, brother, you know what I mean? We weren't trying to, like, be all fast and stuff. That's why...
Yeah, as soon as I found out, that's why I didn't pull you guys out, because I figured out the tag, everything was good.
Correct.
You tag ready?
Yeah, oh yeah. He's just going through the whole motions of, like, you know, what it could have been. Yeah, best of luck today, man.
When you guys' game, okay?
Hi, man. Sorry again.
This is a statement from the Frisco Police Department. Due to recent burglaries and vehicle thefts, first of all, let's be clear. This family's from Little Rock, Arkansas. The family was not speeding. The family was not engaged in any wrongdoing. What happened was these cops, I need everybody to listen to me very clearly. These cops, go back to the statement. These cops saw the vehicle pulling out of a hotel parking lot. And they noticed an out-of-state license plate. Quote, due to recent burglaries and vehicle thefts in which chargers are frequently stolen, an officer conducted a computer check of the vehicle's Arkansas license plate. However, when entering the information, the plate was mistakenly entered out of Arizona. The error resulted in an incorrect registration return, leading the officer to believe that the vehicle was possibly stolen. Goes on to say, when they were pulled out, quote, about that time, a Frisco police sergeant arrived. The sergeant realized the mistake and immediately ordered officers to stand down and ended the high-risk stop. Fresno Police Chief David Shilson said they made a mistake, quote, and our department will not hide from its mistakes. Okay. Here's the problem. And we have done numerous stories on black people who have been shot and or killed in traffic stops. When we had the story just last week, the brother who was tased, he had an incorrect mud flap on the truck. A mud flap. We have covered stories where black people have been shot because they had an item dangling from the rearview mirror. And the cop said, oh, that was obstructing their view. Why was that? That was a grown black man who was crying like a baby. That was a grown, I need people to understand. If you want to understand why black people die early because of stress, there have been people who've had heart attacks in situations like that. That man was in tears because in a split second, he literally saw that he and his son could become the newish hashtag. Mm-hmm. And that was a black female cop. In that video, y'all, see, this is where people need to understand. It's not a question of, when we talk about the blue, it's not a question of always white and black. This is a black female cop who says, oh, I made a mistake. This black female cop could have cost them their lives. You heard the white officer say, that's why we were taking our time, taking it slow. That brother, his wife, and his son are lucky. Because we've seen other cases where cops from 3 seconds to 20 seconds would open fire, mistaking the cell phone for a gun. Oh, my gun accidentally went off. I mean, I could go down the line. Like literally, y'all, as I am sitting here talking, I am thinking about the number of stories that we've done like this dating back to when I was on TV One, and those black people are in cemeteries right now. It's not enough, Congo, to say we made a mistake. And the reason it's not enough, because we've heard before where the cop said, my bad. And we've seen where even when they admitted mistake, they weren't charged. And that black family is left to bury somebody. This is not something just to easily move past. To listen to that grown black man crying because he knew he was that close to being a hashtag. I'm a Congo.
You know, there was a Harvard study that came out early this year or late last year that talked about the community trauma of a police shooting, where it's just not the family that deals with it, but the entire black community for a radius of miles can feel the after effects. But with social media and everything now, it's the entire nation. All of our hearts raced watching that because we know easily that it could have been us. And you talked about the fact, Roland, that sometimes people can have a heart attack when situations like this happen. The brother didn't have a heart attack then, but it can happen later.
Yep.
We all know what it's like sitting in our rooms thinking about how we just barely missed getting shot, barely missed just getting tased, barely missed. I also thought about those sisters who were coming back, I believe, to a university in Delaware, coming from the South, who were athletes on a bus that we talked about in this. That's psychological trauma that can last forever. You know, we've seen situations where family members die after their child gets killed or their mother gets killed. They can't live in their homes anymore. And the cops just pat you on the back and say, oh, we made a mistake, go about your day. You think they were able to play effectively that day? What was that car ride like? You know, we're putting that mindset of inferiority and that anything we can take your life at any moment into the minds of our youngest, And as a father myself, there's nothing that father did that I would not have done. Begging, pleading for my child's life, not even talking about my own, right in front of these people for the world to see. So now he's traumatized forever. That child is traumatized forever. And there's more extra video out there where the mother is losing it. And if you had played that part, Roland, I probably would have lost it here as well. People need to understand that this is real for us. And like you said, it's not just black versus, white. Is when it comes to the cops, it's black versus blue.
Let me. I'm going to pull this. We're going to show that video, but I want to show y'all something. I'm going to go back to this story here. While they were talking to the father and the son, go back to my iPad. It says another officer interviewing the female driver of the vehicle, who identified herself as a mother traveling with her husband, son, and nephew. So there were 3 black men. Tells police that a registered gun is inside a locked glove box in the vehicle. Quote, occupants in the car, leave your hands outside the car. We know there is a gun in there. The officer with the loudspeaker is heard saying, after learning that information, if you reach in that car, you may get shot, so be careful. Do not reach in the car. About 3 minutes later, that officer's colleague tells him the wrong tag was written. This isn't a stolen vehicle. Julian, the reason that is important, because I think of Philando Castile.
Yeah.
When Philando Castile told the cop that he had a concealed handgun, that cop quickly fires and kills Philando Castile. That mother likely is losing it because, again, by her saying there's a gun in the glove box, she also saw we could all end up dead.
Roland, this is a family that has been unfairly traumatized. I don't care if the people are sorry or not. There have to be consequences. You just can't do that. I know. I'm looking at my keyboard right now because she says she put in A, Z as opposed to AR, but Z and R are not anywhere near each other on the keyboard. If you said it was A, Z, or AR as opposed to AT, that's not a state, of course. But, I would say, okay, maybe she made a mistake, her finger twitch. No, I'm not saying it was deliberate. It was careless. It was stupid. And basically, this sister needs, beyond counseling, she needs to be suspended without pay for at least a year. The white boy, we sorry, we're human. I don't want to hear that you're human when you reduce my child and my spouse to tears. I don't want to hear about your humanity. I mean, your humanity is incidental to the fact that we could have been killed. I think Richard Wright years ago said, when there's a lynching in Mississippi, I can feel it in Chicago. And what he was talking about was the universal trauma that black people experience when we see these kind of things happen. I don't know how many other little black boys who learned about this felt themselves at risk and at danger, felt their own stomachs not up. I don't know how many sisters seeing their man being treated this way and crying. I mean, we know brothers don't let loose like that too often. He was holding a lot in. He was holding a lot in. And I don't know how many people are sitting saying, spit, that could have been me. And so these little specious apologies, and I mean specious, they're necessary. It should never have happened. There must be consequences. And this is a racial trauma, not a family trauma. We are all feeling this.
Yep, absolutely. Folks, hold tight 1 second. When we come back, Democrats are looking at trying to hold on to the White House in 2024, as well as hold on to the United States Senate. Black voters will be a key, but it is a Democratic Party, and it's white strategists listening to black people. Or are they going to be stupid again and end up costing themselves the White House and the Senate? We'll break it down next on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Up next on The Frequency with me, Dee Barnes, our special guest, Alicia Garza, one of the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. We're going to discuss her new book, The Purpose of Power, How We Come Together When We Fall Apart.
We live in a world where we have to navigate, when we say something, people look at us funny, but when a man says the same thing less skillfully than we did, right? Then everybody flocks towards what they said, even though it was your idea.
Right here on The Frequency on the Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. How are you being of service to others? Doing for someone beside yourself is such a big part of living a balanced life. We'll talk about what that means, the generation that missed that message, and the price that we're all paying as a result.
Well, now all I see is mama getting up in the morning, going to work, maybe dropping me off at school, then coming back home at night. And then I really didn't have any type of time with the person that really was there to nurture me and prepare me and to show me what a life looked like and what service looked like.
That's all on the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up? Geek Tony in the place to be. Got Kicked Out Your Mama's University, creator and executive producer of Fat Tuesdays, an air hip-hop comedy. But right now, I'm rolling with Roland Martin, unfiltered, uncut, unplugged, and undamn believable. You hear me?
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Washington Post dropped a story today that those of us in black-owned media, well, look, we're quite familiar with, and that is the struggles that are existing in the party when it comes to attracting black voters. So now, let me be perfectly clear. Black women are the largest voting bloc in the Democratic Party. Black men are number 2. Yet what we have seen over the past 10 to 12 years has been a decline, if you will, in black voter participation. Now, you look at also what happened. You do see this uptick, if you will, of black voters, namely black men supporting Republicans. It is not major, but it is still significant. Now, the reason this is all important is because there's always been sort of this one-size-fits-all strategy for reaching black voters. But as black older voters get older and become ancestors, fewer African Americans self-identify as Democrat, even though they may end up voting Democrat, but they don't self-identify as Democrats. And so the story in the Post, which we talk about all the time, we've been talking about for years, is nothing new for us. The question is, will the party leaders listen? Terrence Woodbury is the founding partner of Hit Strategies, one of the top pollsters in the business. He joins me now from Washington, D.C. And Terrence, we have talked about this on so many occasions. And I'm going to say, and I tweeted all of this earlier, I'm going to say what the Washington Post would not say and would not write, and what the New York Times will never write, and what CNN will never discuss, and what all these people will never say. The fundamental problem is white campaign strategists first refuse to hire, no, let me take it further. White candidates refuse to hire African Americans to run campaigns. Black candidates oftentimes don't hire black campaign strategists. They ghettoize black pollsters. And if they do hire folks, they don't listen to them. And then what they do is those white strategists put all that money in television when you saturate the air and then it just becomes a waste of money because that's how they get paid. They don't put money on the ground. They aren't putting money in black-owned media. And then a week before the election, when you look at polling data, they freak out and they start trying to figure out how to go spend money with black people, and now it's too late. I pretty much summed it up.
I mean, that is, that's a lot of the problem that we're dealing with here, Roland. We have, black voters are acutely aware of the role that they play in the body politic, specifically the role that they play electing Democrats. They know exactly the role they play, not only electing Joe Biden, but nominating him. They know what role they play delivering the House and the Senate in 2020. And black folks in Georgia damn sure know the role that they play delivering the first a black man and a millennial to the U.S. Senate, again securing the control of that House for Democrats. The problem is now they just don't see enough progress on that agenda, despite Democrats and despite the Biden administration achieving many of the things that black folks were demanding. We have not done a good job connecting folks to the progress that's being made. I keep telling a lot of my friends in the Democratic Party, legislation doesn't necessarily equal progress. It's the ability to access the things in that legislation that equal progress. And that's where we got some work to do ahead of the next election cycle.
So let's unpack that, because we spend a lot of time on this show explaining what's going on and walking people through. And the reality is, what you just laid out, there are a number of things. And you've done the data. You've had the focus groups where people said, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, this didn't happen. And then when you present, well, actually, this happened, this happened, this happened, then they go, wow, I didn't know that. Correct?
I mean, I'll take you even further than that, man. We created a black agenda with Alicia Garza and the Black Future Labs that actually took an account of what black folks wanted to see done on their top 5 issues, on things like criminal justice reform, economic security, climate change, public safety. Not just which issue is most important, but what do they actually want to see done? And when you look at something like criminal justice reform, the top 5 things on that agenda have all been achieved by this administration: banning no-knock warrants, banning chokeholds, mandatory body cameras, National Registry of Police Misconduct. I want to be clear, this is not just us giving credit to Democrats. This is us as a movement taking credit for the things that we demanded, that we marched for, that we protested for, that we lobbied for. Those things are getting done.
And stating facts. So this ain't like hypotheticals. It's like, this happened, you say you want this happened. And as to your point, that's what we fought for.
That's right. This is our progress. And we need the movement leaders from Black Lives Matter, the Color of Change, and Campaign Zero, and the rest of them to start taking credit for what the movement is achieving. Because as long as black folks, look, this was an NAACP survey I conducted last year that showed that 7 out of 10 black folks said that their lives had not improved since Joe Biden became president. 7 out of 10. Roland, if that number is true in November of 2024, if 70% of black folks cannot tell you how their lives have improved, Democrats are going to have a problem.
The thing that, look, we talk about all the time, you take messaging. And here's a perfect example. Last week, Kristen Clark goes before the cameras and announces patterns and practices investigation against the Memphis Police Department. This Biden-Harris Department of Justice has launched 8 or 9 of these investigations.
That's right.
1 during the Trump years. 1. I have personally said to the White House, how in the world are we seeing the DOJ putting wardens, corrections officers in prisons, convicting people of hate crimes, convicting officers of abuse and sending them to prison? And y'all don't even put it, you don't even discuss it at the White House podium. You're not giving any attention to what they're doing. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, hello, This is basic. How hard is it to stand there and literally say, because again, I get the press releases, the DOJ is making the announcements, and I'm like, why are you not taking victory laps? If Karine Jean-Pierre is saying that, and then Biden is saying that, sprinkling in a speech, you can sit there and say, we are holding people accountable.
That's right.
They not doing it.
They are holding people accountable. They just aren't talking about it as much as they need to. And so, look, this is the real problem, Roland, about how when we wait too long to start these conversations, it enforces and reinforces the cynicism that people feel. Because, you know, when you look at some of this economic agenda, tax credits and insulin being capped at $35 an hour, housing vouchers, the work that's been done, when we present that to people in focus groups, the list of progress that's been made, you know what happens, Roland? I'll never forget sitting across from a young black man in Philadelphia who started getting pissed off as he was reading the list of how much progress we had made. And I had to stop and say, wait, I'm showing you the money that is being distributed, the resources that are being distributed that you just said you needed. Why is that pissing you off? He said, because I can't access any of this. I can't access these tax credits. I can't access these housing vouchers. I can't access these jobs created by the infrastructure bill. And so if we don't connect them to these resources now, and instead come around next year and tell them how much we've done for them that they weren't able to access, it just reinforces their cynicism.
And when we say connecting, we say those things.
Let me be specific.
Go ahead.
Let me be very specific, Roland. When we needed their votes in 2020 and in 2022, we put in the palm of their hand, click here to access your ballot. Click here to find your polling place. Click here to commit to sign this pledge that you're going to vote. Well, now they need to click here to apply for those tax credits. Click here to apply for those millions of jobs created by the infrastructure bill. And the example that I often give is Obamacare. Look, passing the Affordable Care Act was one of the most significant legislative achievements of the Obama presidency. But he didn't stop at passing it. He spent millions of dollars connecting people to it. Counselors, stopgaps, websites, apps, all types of ways of connecting people to the health care that they needed, because just passing the legislation was not going to.
Well, I mean, that's like, I'm just going to use it as an example. That's like me sitting here going, hey, I need y'all to support Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network, but I never give out the Cash App. I never give out any information. I never explain what we're doing. I never show people how we're progressing. I never show them what we've done with the money and how we bought new cameras and done things. And if they don't see it on the screen, it's like, well, what did you do with the money?
That's right.
That's why we do it. And the thing is, it's also understanding language. You said something that was important. Actually, I'm going to do this here. I'm going to go to break real quick. I'm going to come back. We're going to come back. I want you to talk about language. Because when we had you on right before the 2022 election, you explained why they can't use the phrase voter suppression in talking to younger voters. It's language. And even stuff like that people are not getting. So Terrence, hold tight 1 second, folks. We're talking to Terrence Woodbury, his strategist, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie. How are you being of service to others? Doing for someone beside yourself is such a big part of living a balanced life. We'll talk about what that means, the generation that missed that message, and the price that we're all paying as a result.
Well, now all I see is mama getting up in the morning, going to work, maybe dropping me off at school, then coming back home at night. And then I really didn't have any type of time with the person that really was there to nurture me and prepare me and to show me what a life looked like and what service looked like.
That's all on a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Frank.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Welcome back, Roland Martin Unfiltered. We're talking with Terrence Whitberry, Hit Strategies, one of our top pollsters. Terrence, language. Yeah. What you say, how you say it, what resonates with voters. Two things. One, talk about your voter suppression data. But one that blew me away was when you said, when you say we need you to vote because folk died for it, they ain't feeling that. But when you say your vote could be the difference, that's right. That speaks differently and resonates with black voters. Explain.
That's right. You know, we've done a lot of work around messaging and narrative with black voters, which is where a lot of the challenge is. It's not as much a governing problem as it is a messaging problem in some cases. And one example of that is the way we talk about voter suppression efforts. Right? We found that using that language, voter suppression, it incites this expectation that is something that we've dealt with before. That was something that we marched for in the 50s and 60s. That was a civil rights challenge. And in fact, there's just a distraction from the real challenges that we have today. But instead, when you talk about efforts to make it harder for just enough people to vote to make the difference, that is something that's familiar to people.
And you got to be specific. Your data says they are closing voting locations. That's what you say instead of voter suppression.
That's exactly right. That's right. Voter suppression sounds like something from the civil rights movement. But when they're just trying to make it hard enough for just enough people to vote by doing things like closing a few locations, by ending early voting periods, that these are things that people are familiar with and they know people that have been impacted by it. And then they become more resilient. They become, we call voter vigilance, right? They're expected to overcome those barriers. Another example, Roland, that I think is going to be very important in this next election, because in 2022, defending democracy was the second biggest issue that Democrats spent money on, second only to abortion. The second issue that we spent the most money on was defending democracy. I expect those two issues to rise to the top again this cycle. The only difference now is that we can't keep expecting folks that have had mixed results from democracy, that don't always win from democracy, that those may not be the people that are most likely to defend it. The simple language shift that we have to make here is from defending democracy to fixing democracy. And fixing democracy includes a bunch of things that Democrats agree with anyway. Getting big money out of politics and reforming the Electoral College and automatic voter registration. But what it does is acknowledges to folks that we know that there's something wrong with it. And we're not asking them to just stand in line and defend the status quo, but that we need to fix it through some of these common sense democratic reforms.
I laid out a series of things that I think need to happen, and I've been very vocal about this on the show. And this is what I've said. Right now, this is the end of July. We're in August 2023. I believe that right now we are in what I call the education period.
That's right.
So I sort of, in television, we use a phrase called back timing, meaning you build a show from the end of the show backwards. So if I'm building this from the election year backwards, election date, is how I'm looking at this whole deal. That's voting. Before voting, I got to get you registered. Before I got you get you registered, I got to educate you. I believe what they should be doing, and the CBC is doing some of this. They're not well-attended town halls. I was at one when we were at Essence. It wasn't well-attended. In fact, Friday, Congressman Terry Sewell hit me up just today, and she asked me to moderate the one that's happening in Birmingham on Friday. I'll be in Birmingham beginning tomorrow for NABJ, and she asked me to do this one. I'm going to show you the graphic in a minute, and hopefully that's going to be well attended. But you have to walk people through. You have to teach people. And I think what you're talking about and what I'm talking about, there should be literal town halls, voter engagement, low propensity, high propensity. It should be micro-targeted. There should be specific conversations with black men, specific conversations with black women, specific conversations with black entrepreneurs, specific conversations with different groups, because you have to tailor messaging to those different people. I experienced it when I was in Georgia. There was a black woman who owned a coffee shop, who supportive of Roe v. Wade, but she said her number one concern was tax policy, and she was listening to Herschel Walker. So you can't look at her and just go, oh, talk about the Dobbs decision. She was like, no, I'm looking at, I own a business, I've got employees, I'm looking at taxes. And that's the kind of micro-targeting Democrats that better understand that should be happening right now, these constant engagement conversations, and not always going to the damn barbershop and beauty salon.
That's exactly right, Roland. You know, I appreciate you, brother, because you are doing a lot of the civic education that we need. And when you start to disaggregate the black community, you know, we've created these clusters amongst black voters that really begin to put them into these categories, groups of black voters beyond just age and gender, right? Because when you start to break them out, there's a very cynical group of black voters that are closest to the pain, that haven't felt like the democracy has been working for them. For a lot of them, they are choosing to withdraw. They are choosing to not participate in a system that does not seem to work for them. But then there's another group that's equal, the exact same size, 30%, that is not cynical. In fact, when you ask them, they say they participate in every election. But the record shows that they done missed a few. That's just a lack of information. When I talk to them folks in focus groups, they actually get pissed off that they missed the last election. Well, there's a different intervention for the cynic that says this doesn't matter. That voter, in fact, needs to be persuaded to re-engage, while this other voter, this lower information, aspirational voter that thinks they vote in every election, they need to be informed and empowered. And so we got to make that difference. And the last thing I want to, you know, as we talk about this language shift, and I've been responsible for some of this, as I've been trying to close the gap between black men and black women. We have to stop talking about the problems with black men, because it seems to imply that they're the problem.
Yep.
Instead of talking about the barriers that have been erected against black men. And there are barriers that we need to start tearing down, and it ain't black men's fault that they're there, but it's our fault if we know that they're there and we don't start.
Before I go to Juliana Omakongo, here's the other thing that you also got to do. You got to give black men credit. Doug Jones, when he won the election, it was very interesting. All of these stories, nearly every story, and let me be real clear. I done put a bunch of sisters on the air. I have higher heights, named it so. Can't nobody sit here and try to question my credentials when it comes to black women. But damn near every story, black women elected Doug Jones, because it was 96%. It was 92% for black men.
That's right.
And so what happens is, and this is what I'm about to say right now is a very touchy subject, because I've seen it play out. And Siobhan was on the panel with us at the Alpha Convention where she talked about this here, this pitting of black men and black women. But the reality is, and I'm going to say this, and brothers, y'all can act a fool if you want to, we do have to acknowledge ego. We do have to acknowledge misogyny. We do have to acknowledge sexism and paternalism. But there is this sort of thing where brothers are voting, but folk act like they ain't important.
That's right.
And so psychologically, for a certain group of black men, when all they hear is black girl magic and black women this and black women that and black women this and black women that, and they never actually hear black men being affirmed politically, then they go, well, shit, what about us? Oh, the hell with this, we ain't interested. And that is also where Republicans are seizing on.
That's right. And because the other side of only hearing black girl magic and black women deliver, which they are, both delivering and magic, the other side that black men hear a lot is toxic masculinity, you know, and the problems with sexism and chauvinism and look, I got to remind a lot of Democrats often that not all masculinity is toxic, and we cannot allow Republicans to claim these values that are so inherent to who black men are. Black values like family, like masculinity, like Jesus, not just God, but also Jesus is critical to a lot of the foundation of who a lot of black men think they are. I mean, believe that they are. And far too often we've ceded those values to Republicans, and that's how they're starting to make progress. Also, wealth creation and independence. Yep. You know, not all black folks is poor. This ain't always about reducing
There you
poverty.
go. Yeah, hey.
Some of it's about creating wealth.
Hey, I was asked by the White House after President Biden's State of the Union speech, and they said, hey, what do you think? I said, yeah, it was a good speech. I said, but y'all need to focus on business creation and building scale. I said, I'm telling you right now, I said, the numbers are real. And see, people don't want to own up to some stuff. Look, I found that school choice is the black choice. Andrew Gillum learned that in Florida. Nobody can explain why 18% of black women voted for Ron DeSantis, because he was talking about opportunity scholarships. It's a whole bunch of black women want to make sure their kids get educated, and school choice is one of those issues. It's a lot of Democrats who oppose charter schools, they oppose vouchers, but guess what? It's a big percentage of black people where that is important, and if you go so hard against that, they like, yo, I'm a single voter issue. And so these are the nuances of the 21st century black voter that these white campaign strategists and candidates don't seem to understand is happening in real time.
That's right, Roland. Look, man, I appreciate you giving these platforms to voices that just have an alternative perspective, because, look, there is an opportunity here to really mobilize and catalyze the progress that's been made. I think we have to change. We got to do a few things different, change some of the language. We got to change some of the messengers, not just the message, but change some of the messengers. We need us telling us how we have made our lives better by voting. That's not always going to be because of some hero in Washington. Sometimes that's going to be because you and I stood together and voted last cycle. We were able to do X, Y, Z, but we're not done yet. And that's a very different message than just trust these politicians and keep voting for them, and they'll fix your life. It was a young man in Florida who told me, Roland, in a focus group, my hood didn't get any better under Obama. It didn't get any worse under Trump. So what does Joe Biden have to do with me? And for that young man, his cynicism is based in his proximity to the pain. The best thing we could do for him is not a message. The best thing we could do for him is relieve that pain.
And the thing here, and again, I'm coming to you, I'm a Congo, Julian, trust me, I am. When I talk about black-owned media, the reality is, so here's a perfect example. We've been talking now for 34 minutes. MSNBC, Fox News, definitely not Fox News, but CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, they ain't dedicating this type of time to the nuance of walking us through that.
That's right.
And what these white strategists are going to have to do is respect black-owned media, and they should be sitting here going, okay, you got black podcasters, you got black-owned media sources, and they've got to stop the game of saying, well, we're going to throw them some celebrity influencer money. No, you're going to pay out of the media budget. I know that experience where, and I had a member of Congress said, Roland Martin owns a media company. Why are you trying to pay him out of celebrity influencer money when you should be paying him out of the media budget, where you're running spots like everybody else. And that's the thing. And they can't nickel and dime us. I told 2 campaigns to go to hell in 2022 where they came to me with some small amount of money to run ads. And this thing, and everybody listening as well, this is not just a message for Jamie Harris and the DNC. It is for Senator Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Senate Congressional Committee, the DSCC. It's for the DCCC. It's for the Democratic Governors Association. But it's also for all these progressive PACs and these progressive groups. It's for the environmental lobby. It's for the reproductive rights people. It's for
LGBTQ.
It's for LGBTQ.
That's right.
I'm sick of these folks sitting here spending all this money out here, and they're not including black people. And then when our ass is getting in trouble, they didn't want to come to us and play Superman and Superwoman and save the day. And I said this when we were in Atlanta together. All these progressive groups, the number is very clear. They should be putting a minimum of $500 million into progressive groups on the ground to drive black voter turnout in at least 10 to 15 states.
That's right.
That's just grassroots. That ain't black-owned media. And I've said this to the Biden folks. That little nice announcement in 2016 or 2020. We a $6 million historic investment in black-owned media. Fat Joe said it. Yesterday's price ain't today's price.
Listen. I'm glad you're making some demands here because we gotta. There are some voices and some trusted messengers that are going to be necessary to have in this conversation. Otherwise, we're going to keep engaging the same folks, the folks that are already watching CNN and MSNBC, as opposed to the folks that are tuning in here that are in touch with the community, that know that there's civic education, civic awareness, that there's things that we need to be information that we need to be armed with, so that we can correct the record on some of these things. I'm happy to come on anytime and continue these conversations.
Congo, your question for Terrence.
So one of my questions, and thank you for all of your incredible work, I'm wondering if you are fearful that as we get closer to the election, some Democrats are going to intentionally try to play the middle, which will lead to them ignoring more black voices and basically end up what happened with Tim Ryan and J.D. Vance in Ohio, where he tried to play the middle and basically said, like something to the effect of Obama was wrong, which immediately lost him a lot of black votes. Do you feel like that's going to happen? People are going to try to even ignore more black voices by trying to play towards the middle in some attempt to get more white independents or white conservatives?
Unfortunately, I think it takes... Unfortunately, like Roland said, he's been having this conversation for a very long time, long before a headline in the Washington Post today about the need to prioritize black voters. But unfortunately, I do think it takes that headlines like we saw in the Washington Post to jar people's attention, to get them to realize that the key to success is to mobilize your most loyal voters. I mean, this is what Republicans have figured out. We know Donald Trump isn't reaching to the middle. He's not trying to persuade some mythical swing voter. He's trying to juice his base. Everything he says, every stage he walks on, every headline out of that campaign is to juice his base. And it works. He surges the right. And we have an opportunity to surge the left. I think that a lot of the surge that we saw from the left in 2020 was a response of the movement. A lot of that was the Black Lives Matter protests and the groundswell that we saw from young people. And in 2022, a lot of that was from the reproductive justice movement. Well, this time, either we have to recreate those movements or we have to find new ways of harnessing that energy that is oftentimes coming out of young people and multiracial coalitions.
Julian?
First of all, Mr. Woodbury, thank you for your work. Thank you for your work. I think you've created some nuances here that we need to pay attention to. At the same time, I'm just going to say this to y'all, both of y'all brothers. I love my black men, always have, always will, but y'all got to back up off of some of this stuff with your own sexism. I appreciate what you said, but let's be clear. There has to be a conversation among black men bringing people like Siobhan to the table to say, Siobhan, the sister who's head of NCNW, to say, how can we talk about getting out of this? Because there's sisters who are walking around with their mouths poked out. They believe they're wrong, but they believe that black men cost Stacey Abrams the election. That's an example of that. And we as black people refuse to talk about sexism in a way that's calm, holistic, and forward-thinking. Do you have any thoughts? You seem to have a lot of ideas, which I appreciate. I wish I could talk to you a little longer, but Roland gonna cut me off. He has a bad habit of that. But do you have thoughts about how we have this holistic conversation? And I'd love to talk to you more about how these folks, you used to talk about energizing the base or surging to the base. How can they surge to the base when they're so paranoid about blackness?
Yeah, you know, a part of that is, and this is a part of what we've been trying to do, is use data to correct the record, right? The gender gap that exists between black men and black women in levels of turnout or levels of support for Democrats, it's not unique to black folks. There's a gender gap amongst all racial groups. Women vote more than men of every single race. Women vote more Democratic than men of every single race. Now, it is more concentrated amongst black folks, and that's a part of where we got to crack the code. But that's a part of what we have to do here is just start correcting the record. And the second way we do that is to stop talking about the problems within our community, the problems with black men or the problems with black millennials, and start talking about the barriers that have been erected to make it harder for these groups to participate in the same way and with the same conviction.
What we also got to do, Julian, to your question though, is we got to be honest about what is actually being said. What I mean by that is when you talk about Georgia, there were many people, literally a year before the election, who was saying to Stacey Abrams and her campaign, there is a black male perception problem. What's your strategy? And in many ways, stuff wasn't done. See, so when we talk about these things, we got to recognize, Terrence, there were people who were giving those warnings. Hey, this is what we're seeing on the horizon. Y'all may want to address that. That was actually happening. Terrence, go ahead.
But Roland, I'm sorry, my brother, for interrupting you. Roland, this black male perception came out of nothing but misogynoir. I mean, it came out of some black men, I'm not saying all, but some black men's absolute hate for seeing black women in positions of power. And so say you have a black male problem. No, black men had a problem with a powerful black women.
No. Let me walk you through. You said there's a portion of that. You're absolutely right. But it metastasized. And what I am saying is when black men like myself and Terrence say stuff a year in advance, you might want to listen to us. So what is the perception? What do they say? Perception is sometimes folks' reality. So the perception then doesn't become the reality that you actually counter it beforehand. This is part of what we're talking about. What happened? Hold on, Julian. I'm telling you, and I'm speaking from experience. I know black men who reached out and said, hey, y'all, we're seeing this rumbling. Let's counter this very early. Folk didn't listen to them. And that's what we're talking about here. We're saying listen to black men, listen to black women, talk to them before it's too late. Terrence.
If I could just respond from the data, you know, what we saw after the 2018 election was that had black men voted for Stacey Abrams at the same rate as black women, she would have been governor. And Stacey Abrams was very acutely aware of that statistical fact. And where I might disagree a little bit, I think that she built a campaign to address what Stacey has always done, build data-driven strategy. And so she saw that gap and that gender gap between black men and black women in her first campaign. She made investments and programmatic shifts to address that, and not just in barbershops, but in actually recruiting and enlisting a team of black male surrogates and strategists to go out and pursue those black men. And the result was that Stacey closed the gender gap. Well, the trends that we saw in Georgia bucked all national trends amongst black voters.
So I don't want to speed bump that. So all of the stories in mainstream media were black men not supporting Stacey.
No,
you're saying the data shows that was a lie.
Empirically, I can prove it in the data. It is a lie. Stacey closed the gender gap between black men and black women, smaller than it was anywhere in the country. The gender gap between black men and black women was smaller in Georgia than it was anywhere in America.
So it's a lie also. It's also a lie when people say, if black men had voted in 2022, she would have won.
That is a lie.
Because folks are putting that by saying that black men cost her the election. You say the data is clear. That's also a lie.
It is clear in the data. The gap between, because I did a deep dive to figure out, well, what was the difference between Warnock and Abrams? Who were those voters? I almost suspected that it was going to be some black men in that difference, that more black men supported him than supported her. It is a lie. They ran even amongst black men. They ran even amongst black women. The gap, the gender gap that Stacey experienced with black men was the exact same as Warnock. The difference in the margin of victory was in moderate white voters that Warnock was able to convince that Herschel Walker was an existential threat, and we did not do the same with Brian Kemp. We did not disqualify him and connect him to the crazy of Donald Trump and the crazy of Herschel Walker. We let him distance himself from that and appear moderate and appear sane. And that worked with white moderates. That's where the gap was between Stacey and Warnock.
And what Brian Kemp also did was, Brian Kemp didn't do what other Republicans did. He actually showed up at various black events. And so that blunted, well, what typically happens is, oh, you can't even show up. He actually showed up. He actually had, it wasn't a huge one, he actually had a black strategy.
That's right. He was formidable. He was a formidable candidate, and in many ways, and I've said this on the record, I don't think Stacey lost that race. I think Brian Kemp won that race. He did formidable politics, appealing to the right, appearing to stand up to Trump while still maintaining Trump's base. I mean, he did what I did not think was possible. And he defied a lot of what I expected to be the conventional norm, which was if you do not capitulate to Donald Trump, then his base will make you pay a price for it.
And the last point here, what you just laid out, and this is part of the problem, when you rely on mainstream white media ran with that story, black men are the problem, 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 and people start thinking, well, black men are the problem, and you know who they were not listening to? Black-owned media, where we were actually saying, y'all, that ain't the problem. On this show, we laid out the things that Stacey Abrams was doing in terms of reaching black men. But you had some brothers, it was too late. Dude was there the whole time. But that's what happens when you let white-owned mainstream media set the agenda. Final comment, Terrence.
This is one that we're going to have to continue to correct the record on, both within our community and to folks that claim to serve our communities. We do have to correct the record on the gender gap between black men and black women. You've heard me say this, Roland. The one that I'm even more concerned about is the generation gap between younger black voters and older black voters. I say all the time, black seniors are my favorite voters because we know they're going to vote and we know who they're going to vote for. That is not the case of black voters under the age of 50. They need to be convinced to vote, and more frequently, they need to be convinced to vote for Democrats.
Absolutely. Terrence Whitbury, Hit Strategist. We appreciate it, brother. We'll have you back again.
Thank you, brother.
We come back. I'm going to pick up on that particular point there, talk about it with Omakonga and Julian. We come back right here in Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right
Yeah.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hello, we're the Critter Fixers. I'm Dr. Bernard Hodges.
And I'm Dr. Terrence Ferguson.
And you're tuned in to
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
2012, 2016, 2020, 2022, 2018, we are on this, my TV One show, this show. I often would show people various studies when it came to black voters. The point that Terrence Woodbury is making at the end there, people need to understand. The folk who gonna show up, 65 plus. I remember National Coalition on Black Civic Participation had their phone banks. And I think they were called in Florida. And so they reached this one household, it was a sister. She was in like her 70s and 80s. She said, baby, let me be clear with y'all. My son is picking me up tomorrow at X time and taking me to the polls to vote. Y'all need to stop calling me because I got my voting plan. Call somebody else. It was too funny when they relayed that story to me. And so the numbers are there. They are going to turn out. I say to millennials and Gen Z constantly, you may have the numbers, but you're not maximizing your numbers. I say the exact same thing to Latinos. In Texas, there are 2 million eligible but unregistered Latinos in Texas. There are 700,000 eligible but unregistered Latinos in Texas. A study was done in 2022, the exit polls show, that 75% of all Texans under the age of 30 did not vote. 75%. And so when we're talking about what's happening now, this is where the voter education comes in. We've got to have real conversations to young voters to explain to them, you sitting out elections means that those who are Gen X or baby boomer, they're the ones who are deciding your future. So you can't complain about the old folk decide our future when you're not showing up. Which means that, and I say this all the time, Juliana Makongo, I said all the time how we got to go back to Schoolhouse Rock 2.0, 3.0, and literally walk folks through basic civics, not saying, well, y'all stupid, but I'm saying you never actually was taught these things, because that's really a fundamental problem here. I remember 2016, on a radio show, black woman, she was in her 20s. She called into the show, and she said, I ain't feeling Hillary, I ain't feeling Donald Trump at all, so I'm not voting in the presidential election. I'm focusing on state issues. I said, where you from? Again, I think she was like 23 or 24. Activist, engaged. So you would think, what I'm about to tell you, she knew. She said, I'm from North Carolina. I said, okay. I said, what are the 3 issues that you plan on focusing on? And so she threw the 3 issues out. I said, okay. I said, now you said you're not going to vote in the presidential election, right? She said, absolutely not. I'm not feeling Hillary or Donald Trump. I said, are you aware that your 2 U.S. senators have blocked 2 black women who President Obama nominated for the federal bench? It was Tillis and Barr. I said, are you aware of that? She says, no, I'm not. I said, she said, my number one concern in North Carolina, voting rights. I said, interesting. I said, are you aware that it's federal judges who have ruled against North Carolina's voter suppression bills? I said, so if you're telling me that voting rights is your number one issue in North Carolina, but you're sitting out the presidential election, then you're sitting out the person who picks federal judges. Then you're sitting out the U.S. Senate race where they confirm federal judges. I said, so sister, I'm confused. How can voting rights be your number one issue and you're completely ignoring the individuals who play a direct role in the issue that you say is your number one issue? Julianne, she was stumped. I said, sister, you're not connecting the dots to how federal policy has a direct role on what's happening in your state. She was blown away.
Well, you know, one of my favorite stories that I'm told not to repeat is of a young lady who told me she could not vote for Hillary, and she got very emotional at the 16 Democratic convention. I had played some role in her getting there, so you know I was a little fried when she jumped up and she could not vote for them. So I stopped speaking to her. 2 years later passed. Here we got Gorsuch and Kavanaugh. Baby girl calls me Doc, and she's all emotional again. What are we gonna do about our abortion rights? And I said, baby girl, I'm over 60. I don't have abortion rights. But what you have is a problem because you did not have forward thinking. Politics are not personal. This is what our young folks need to understand. You don't have to like the person. You have to look at what their platform is. I think it was Bill Clay Sr. said, no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent issues. And that's what our young people need to understand. I don't care if the person is charismatic. I mean, if Trump had a brain and he was pro-affirmative action, well, I can't say I would vote for it, but I had a lot of ifs there, if he had a brain. But in any case, you know, you can't, they have gotten this stuff so personalized. And you said something earlier, Roland, about Schoolhouse 2.0 or 3.0?
No, it was Schoolhouse Rock. Those of us who grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons, they had Schoolhouse Rock, and we'd be watching cartoons, and they would have all these jingles teaching you about politics.
How bill becomes a law. I mean, yeah, that's the one. There's only a bill. It was only a bill. It was sitting on Capitol Hill with a nice little. We don't have any of that anymore. Somebody needs to do that. Roland Martin, you got a lot of stuff to do. Maybe you can do that too.
Well, the thing is, again, here, Congo, it's not saying y'all ain't nothing, y'all ain't trash, y'all dumb, y'all ignorant. It's literally acknowledging that the problem is there is an education gap that no longer exists that teaches people these things. I had a brother, he and I went at it on Twitter today, and he goes, Biden ain't done nothing about the national minimum wage and nothing about student loan debt. I said, brother, first and foremost, Congress has to pass a bill to increase the minimum wage before Biden can sign it. Yes. 2, Biden did cancel student loan debt. The Supreme Court overruled him. I said, they've used other procedures that have canceled billions of dollars in student loan debt. But what was crazy to me, Congo, I've had some people actually say, even with the limited cancellation, this is bullshit. It's only $10,000.
Right.
Only?
Only?
I mean, you have some people who are mad that Biden has only canceled 10 or 15,000 in student loan debt. That's 10, 15 grand your ass ain't got to pay back.
That's right. That's right. Man, it's sad and it's scary. You talk about the information gap, and one of the challenges is that we have people who are filling that information gap with a lot of misinformation and a lot of disinformation. So that education that you gave that woman who called you, or earlier, they're not getting that in other places, even outside of Schoolhouse Rock and places like that. We have in social media spaces, TikTok and YouTube and all of these places, people who are influencers who are out there talking about, I think I may just sit this one out. Biden hasn't done enough. They're uneducated. They don't even have the knowledge. And so they're really helping create a generation of people who are going to feel like they don't need to get involved, unfortunately, until it's too late. When I teach at American University, one thing I did last semester was I asked students from January, I started asking them every month, how many rights have we lost in this country or are we about to lose? And it kept growing every month. And then the other question I would ask them is, what have any of you done about it? And, have you contacted a congressperson? Have you funded an organization that does voting rights? And, fewer and fewer hands would go up. And I'm saying this is why the problems exist, is because of your lack of engagement. You have this idea that you're invulnerable, things aren't going to bother you. And even if some legislation does happen, it might affect poor members of our community in the United States versus you think you got resources and the like, but it's just a matter of time before they're coming from you. And so when I think about those students who are majority white, I'm thinking, what's happening with the black students? What's happening with the black youth? Where are they getting their information from? Who's filling that void? We haven't seen an uptick from the hip-hop community that we saw when Obama was running and the like. We haven't seen people embracing Black Lives Matter and Black Voters Matter and other organizations like that in the last 3 or 4 years like they used to.
Right.
Or like they did, I would say, 7, 8 years ago. And those types of things are problematic. And so, like you said, this is education time. This is education period where we got to listen to Mr. Woodbury, listen to you, and start really generating the information systems again, because they already exist. We just got to revamp them so we can handle this thing come next year.
So folks out there who don't know what we're talking about when we say Schoolhouse Rock, now listen, they probably gonna put a strike against us on YouTube, so we probably gonna have to edit this out later. But again, for the people out there who think I'm making this up, y'all, this was actually real. Watch this.
Gonna have a 3-ring circus someday. People will say it's a fine one, son. Gonna have a 3-ring circus someday. People will come from miles around. Lions, tigers, acrobats and jugglers and clowns galore. Tightrope walkers, pony riders, elephants and so much more. Guess I got the idea right here at school. Felt like a fool when they called my name, talking about the government and how it's arranged, divided in 3 like a circus. Ring 1, executive, 2 is legislative, that's Congress. Ring 3, judiciary, see it's kinda like my circus. Step right up and visit ring number 1. The show's just begun, meet the president. I am here to see that the laws get done. The ringmaster of the government. On with the show!
Somebody just posted on YouTube, watching this with a big-ass bowl of cereal on Saturday morning. Again, as kids growing up, you're sitting there, you're going, okay, president, Congress, judiciary. This is how a bill gets done. We were 7, 8, 9, 10. That thing was real. And there really is, Julian, a colossal gap today. I can't tell you. I traveled this country, and I have conversations. I have conversations with people with advanced degrees, with undergraduate degrees, high school grad. So people might be thinking, and who might be thinking, well, man, you talking to people who don't know. No, it's a lot of people ain't got a clue how government works.
No,
and who has power and how they use it.
That's absolutely the case, Roland. It's very frustrating. We've taken civics education out of our high schools where it used to be. Reverend Jackson, of course, as you know, has constantly pushed for having high school seniors, when you graduate, you also get a diploma. So that's a great thing. But we've taken civics education out. And so when it's out, you have people who don't know anything about how government works. They have assumptions, like the young man you said Biden hadn't done anything for him. Well, Biden's done a heck of a lot more. You know, Maxine Waters used to always say to me when people talked about the Congressional Black Caucus, and people would say, oh, the Congressional Black Caucus hasn't done anything. And she says, well, you may not have seen what we did, but you also did not see what we prevented from being done. When people understand the way that government works, they understand both aggression and prevention. And so it's really a call for us to go back to our Saturday schools for us, because our curriculum right now is under attack. Not only do you have those fools in Florida trying to change the way you teach Black studies, but you have state legislators who are cheap, trying to take certain things out of the curriculum. So civics has been one of them, in many other ways, which also affects the long-term body psychic. Music and arts have been taken out. In some schools where young men are able to get rid of some of their aggression, see, I think about brothers every now and then, sports have been taken out. And so, you know, we look at it, they want to go down to the 3 R's, and the 3 R's does not serve the long-term development of a civil society.
All right, hold tight 1 second. Gotta go to break. We'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker, truly proud on the Proud Family.
I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Proud.
Hi, I'm Jo Marie Payton, voice of Sugar Mama on Disney's Louder and Prouder, Disney Plus. And I'm with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered here on the Black Star Network. So last week I was in Dallas and Houston for the Urban League Convention, also for the Alpha Alpha Fraternity Incorporated Convention. And I flew back from Houston early on Saturday morning. So I wanted to be at our first military breakfast, and the guest speaker was General Brown. He, of course, was named by President Biden to be Secretary of the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff once Tommy Tuberville stops screwing things around. And General President Lonzer presented him with the highest honor in Alpha Alpha. And I can tell you, I'm sitting in the front row, and here you see this 38-year military veteran just tear up and tears began to get in his eyes when he was given the highest honor of the fraternity. I just want to share some of that with you folks.
President of Alpha Phi Alpha, we are afforded great privileges. I think my predecessors would agree. And this is one that I value highly, because the decision to award you the Alpha Award of Merit was my decision. I was not even pensive about it. It makes sense. You are deserving. But what I love is that you have maintained your commitment to Alpha Phi Alpha as all Alpha men pledge to do. So today, by the authority vested in me by the General Constitution and bylaws of Alpha Phi Alpha as the General President, I am honored to present to you the Alpha Award of Merit, the highest award, the highest recognition that any initiated Alpha Phi Alpha man can receive from his fraternity. You, my brother, you are the prototype, you are the pinnacle of leadership. In the military, we esteem you in our brotherhood because you have maintained our standard. We thank you for your service to our nation, your love for our brotherhood, life member, and your commitment to take time out of your schedule as the leader of all airmen in this world in the United States, and your soon-to-be job as Joint Chiefs. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Congratulations. General Berry also will receive.
Of course, anytime you see the folks in the military, they love having these challenge coins, and so I was able to get one from General Brown. I got a whole collection here. These it says on one side United States Air Force, and the other side says General Charles Q. Brown Jr. with the 4 stars, CSAF 22. That stands for Chief of Staff of the Air Force. First African American to become Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and now he'll become, if confirmed, once the Republicans figure out with Tommy Tuberville getting out of the way, he will be the second African American ever to be head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The moment that we're living in right now is a historical moment on Congo, because you have, again, if the confirmation, and just go back to the general, go back.
I was not. Just let me say thank you. I was not aware this was going to happen. I am so honored to stand here before you today as an Alpha.
Here, here.
Well, there's one last thing.
When folk talk about something's a performative, under this president, this vice president, for the first time, an African American is Secretary of the Defense, retired 4-star General Lloyd Austin. I give him credit, he an Omega, but whatever. Then you have, of course, General Brown, who will be once confirmed chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And for the first time, you also have a 4-star black general who in the U.S. Marines. I think he's an Omega too. And I think
I think he's Omega with a loud, proud voice.
Okay, well, first of all, that's a little youth group. But again, so for people who understand, again, black folks in Congo, we've been fighting in this military since day one. And it's important for us to recognize when African Americans are ascending to these type of positions.
Absolutely. And, we commemorate 75th year of the military being integrated, but without it being integrated, even before that, we fought in every war, fighting for the promise of freedom that never came. And, a lot of times younger people talk about, they see their parents who are veterans or a grandfather fought, and they say, why do you hang up that American flag in our yard, and so on and so forth? And it's because it's our flag. We fought. Nobody fought harder for this country to be free than us. And we are still making history today. Excuse me?
No, go ahead. Just go ahead.
Okay, and so even to this day, we are seeing that, and I'll be very honest, and I think we can admit it. I mean, we can talk about Tuberville and his stance on abortion, but we know there's some racism behind it, and all of the blackness that's in leadership there. Why the Secretary, the Secretary of Defense, the counterpart in China, won't even pick up the phone and talk to Secretary Austin. We think some of that is there as well, but every single day we have to stop and recognize these moments. And furthermore, going back to our last discussion, we have to recognize the person who is making this possible. Every night we can talk about things that Biden could be doing better, but like you said, Roland, all the time, you do good, I'm going to talk about you. You do bad, I'm going to talk about you. Either way, I'm going to talk about you. And so we have a very distinguished history of service in this country, and we have to continue honoring it, Black Star Network and everybody else, because the humility that we bring to the military only comes in second to the pride that we bring in making this country better by our service.
This is a photo, Juliana, of General Michael Langley. This took place in August of last year. His family pinning that 4th star, taking off, pinning that 4th star again, becoming the first African-American 4-star general ever in the U.S. Marines. All of this has happened under a black Secretary of Defense and under President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris.
People have to give President Biden the credit that he's due, and I don't understand why people feel so reluctant to do so. He deserves credit. These are victories. I mean, there are undeniable victories. I'm an anti-militarist, quite frankly, but I still stand up and applaud these victories. This is such an oscillating moment in history for Black people. On one hand, we have this enormous, this pride, these brothers and sisters who are ascending into these military positions that they could not have gotten 50 years ago, 100 years ago. I mean, the military just being integrated under President Truman. At the same time, this pride has sparked a backlash that you've written about, that others have written about, with these hateful people who see this progress and so resent this progress that they take over the Capitol, that they go against affirmative action, that they basically want to put us down. The Congressional Black Caucus's press conference last week, when they talked about I forgot what they called it, but it was race and democracy. I don't know. Anyway, they talked about the attack on Black people, the systematic attack. So we must be doing something right if they feel like they have to double down and attack because, frankly, as General Howard said when he wrote about Howard University, tell them we are rising. No matter what they do, tell them we are rising, and that's the praise story. We're rising.
Indeed. All right, folks, hold tight one second. I'll be right back. Final break. Be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, the studies show that millennials and Gen Xers will be less well off than their parents. What can we do to make sure that we get to children younger and that they have the right money habits? Well, joining me on the next Get Wealthy is an author who's created a master playbook.
Be willing to share some of your money mistakes, right? If that's what you have to lean on, start with the money mistakes that you have made, but don't just tell the mistake, right? Tell the lesson in the mistake.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr, we welcome the Black Star Network's very own Roland Martin, who joins us to talk about his new book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. The book explains so much about what we're going through in this country right now, and how, as white people head toward becoming a racial minority, it's going to get, well, let's just say, even more interesting.
We are going to see more violence. We're going to see more vitriol, because as each day passes, it is a nail in that coffin.
The one and only Roland Martin on the next Black Table, right here on the Black Star Network.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Franklin. It is always a pleasure to be in the house. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We talked earlier about a Washington Post story dealing with black voters, but there was another story today that I found to be quite interesting, and that was in Axios that dealt with this split, if you will, between the Biden campaign, the DNC, and attorney Mark Elias. He is the one, of course, who's been leading in many ways these strategies, fighting these voter laws, and it has been really, really interesting reading this story about how Bob Bauer, who is top attorney for Biden, also is the husband of Anita Dunn, who is a top official for Biden, how they've been disagreeing with Elias and his aggressive strategy, suing everyone, saying, and one story said that Bauer has been saying that he needs to be more understanding of these conservatives in the federal judiciary. It's all sort of, backroom drama. This was a tweet that Eric Holder put out. The former attorney general. Sigh, here's the deal. The party and the nation owe Mark Elias a great deal. I'm proud to work with him in defense of our democracy. And of course, he's talking about this Axios story, why Biden's team soured on Dems election lawyer. Now, they say that, well, they hire other lawyers for the DNC, that Elias's law firm represents the DSCC and other Democratic organizations. But here's what's and I tweeted that this was, stupid. And this is real clear what I said here on Mokongo, and that is this here. Mark Elias, and it's not just Mark Elias, to be very clear, it's Mark Elias, it's NAACP LDF, it's Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, Transforming Justice Coalition, a number of people. They have been very aggressive, and what they say, and Elias is one of those folks who says, you sue everywhere. You do not give an inch. Every law that is passed by Republicans running these states, he does it all the time. He says, if they pass this law, we are going to sue. We will see them in court. And what's been killing Republicans is they hate Mark Elias because he's been winning. And look, Lou Dobbs was even the one point when he used to be on Fox Business. He said, Republicans, can y'all go raise $500 million and just hire this guy? He's been kicking butt. And I'm sorry, I disagree with anybody in the Biden orbit. You must have a all-out war fighting for voting rights.
And this is part of the problem. One of the things the article talked about was how Biden and Bauer wanted to be, more strategic in going after certain cases. As slow as this Justice Department has been, as slow as the Biden administration has been, it took, 14 months or something before the DOJ decided to actually go against Trump for the insurrection. You can't do that. They move too slowly right now. And so Elias and others that you mentioned as well, you have to target them. You have to have Republicans and these governors spending their resources trying to keep up with this legislation, because it also helps put them on blast. He was the one who helped win the case with the Alabama situation that the Supreme Court decided on, and now Alabama is saying that the governor is saying we're not going to listen. So these types of cases, it puts them on blast. This is put ego aside time. This is kind of what we talked about in the last segment. This is why I asked Mr. Woodbury that question, because I'm fearing with decisions like this, they're making a decision to kind of go towards this middle of the ground stance, this tempered approach, and Republicans do nothing in a tempered manner right now. So people can say Elias had an ego and all this other type of stuff. EGO, edging goals out. We're edging goals out by putting him out like this. And really, this is a mistake by the Biden administration. And you talked about those internal politics. You know them better than most. But really, we have to put the egos aside and keep the eyes on the prize. And Elias should have stayed part of that process.
This is one of the tweets that Mark Elias just put out. This tweet went out, let's see here, almost a couple of hours ago. The Alliance Law Group sued the Wisconsin Elections Commission, alleging that a 2022 Wisconsin Supreme Court decision prohibiting the use of drop boxes in the state violates voters' rights. Now, Julian, why is this important? Because tomorrow, guess what? The Wisconsin Supreme Court flips to Democrat majority, 4-3. So by suing them, it now will go before the Supreme Court. The state Supreme Court can invalidate the previous ruling and declare drop boxes to be constitutional.
There you go. You know, I think Obakongo is absolutely right about this whole issue of ego. We need pit bulls. The problem with Democrats is they don't want to be pit bulls. They want to be nice. That was President Obama's problem. He wanted to get along with everybody. Well, how can you get along with everybody? If you are taking the food off my plate, I'm not going to say, would you please remove your hand? I'm going to take my fork and stab you. I mean, literally. So Democrats want to play nice. White Democrats are afraid of alienating the white middle, and that white middle will flip to their own convenience. This guy's a pit bull. Democrats need to lift him up, applaud him, keep him going. And the fact that we don't do it is why we had that orange man as a president, and why people are now worried about whether or not President Biden can have re-election. But President Biden needs to just get a backbone. I mean, I know he's 80, and maybe if you haven't had one all this time, you're not going to get one now. But if you want to keep this position and lift up the values that you have believed in all your life, then you need to put some boxing gloves on, dude, and let's start fighting. If Democrats don't fight, we won't win. Well,
again, this was what tweet Elias responding to Michael Steele. Steele had a tweet from a story that said there's a big problem awaiting us at polling sites in 2024. For example, North Carolina wants to allow observers appointed by county political parties to move freely around polling locations, record poll workers, and stand just 5 feet away as voters cast their ballots. Elias says, and he does this all the time, if this is enacted into law, North Carolina will be sued. You're absolutely right, Julian. Pit bulls are needed, and so sometimes you got to ruffle feathers. And you know what? Everything can't be done quiet. Sometimes you got to be noisy. Now, Mark Elias spends a lot of time going on MSNBC. We've been trying to get him on the show. So, Mark, come on over to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Trust me, don't only talk to MSNBC, come talk to us as well. You represent Black Voters Matters and a lot of other groups, and so come holler at Black folks as well, because we think what you're doing is right, but it's also important for our audience to hear directly from you. And so we're going to keep inviting him to the show. For Julian Obakongo, I appreciate y'all joining us on the panel today. Thank you so very much. Everybody who's watching, thanks for watching us as well. Don't forget us. We want you to support us in what we do. First and foremost, we should easily be, y'all, at 100,000 downloads of the Black Star Network app. Keenan, tell me what the number is. We should be there, y'all. So download our app on all your devices. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Also, please support us by joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. And so please send your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And of course, you can also buy a copy of my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. And so get it at all bookstores, you name it, you can get it. And of course, download it on Amazon and download the copy. First of all, get it on Amazon and download a copy of Audible. Watch us on Amazon Fire TV, Amazon News. You can say, Alexa, play news from the Black Star Network. You can also watch us on Plex TV as well. I'm going to close out the show, y'all, with my man, General Brown. Again, it was a long line of brothers at our military breakfast on Saturday morning. And so he could not take photos with everybody, but he wanted to be sure to give a fist bump to all of those military brothers who attended the luncheon. And so we're just going to close the show out with that, showing that brother some love. 06, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! All right, let's see here.
Hold on. Shoot videos. Shoot videos. Guys, shoot videos. Shoot videos, guys. Y'all should be shooting videos. Shoot videos. I'm trying to tell y'all. Shoot a video. Shoot a video. Shoot a video. Y'all should be shooting videos.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.